All right, good morning. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I'm really appreciative of the time you're taking to engage with us, and welcome to our member ed on employer participation in the Repayment Act, recruiting and retaining talent. We're joined today by Congressman Rodney Davis to discuss the Employer Participation Repayment Act and how this law can help companies recruit and retain employees by making student loan payments. As we move down through our next slides, and we dive into our topic today, we want to recognize our April Video Resource Library sponsor, the Shirk Family Foundation. By sponsoring our educational programs, the Chamber is able to provide these programs free of charge to all of our membership. So thank you so much to the Shirk Family Foundation. All member ed and town hall presentations can be found on our social media platforms, as well as our members only resource library page. There is a password currently, but we'll be removing that shortly, so you'll have access to this presentation and all others that we've done going forward as well. So make sure you go back to our video resource library page. And with that, I'd like to thank all of our sponsors that you see on the slide as well for your participation and sponsorship of the video resource library and all of our programming here at the McLean County Chamber of Commerce. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Congressman Davis to take us through today's topic. Congressman, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate the opportunity to be on today. I do have a quick presentation. Now we're going to see how technologically challenged I am and to see if I can actually do my share screen. One moment here. Okay. Well, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to share my screen. My government issued computer here has decided that that would be a security violation. So let me just go through some of the highlights on it. And what we can do is get you a copy of what we put out there, and you can send it out to your members. Just so everybody knows, Charlie, my district includes around 150,000 college students, which is really about 1 in 5 of the constituents that I'm blessed to serve in this district. I represent 5 community college campuses and actually 7, possibly 8 districts. I think my team might have miscounted one and forgot one of the community college districts that actually touches our district. I represent 8 colleges and universities that offer 4-year and advanced degrees. We want those graduates to stay here. We want them to start a family. We want them to start a business or work for yours. And this is what led me to sponsoring the Employer Participation in Repayment Act. And what does this law do? This law helps employers recruit and retain employees. It helps employees pay down burdensome student loan debt. It also helps the economy by freeing up discretionary income. Now think about this. Right now in this country, we have more student loan debt than auto and credit card debt combined. That should tell you how important this issue is to address. And this is an issue we've been fighting for a few years now. And we have now been successful in turning it into law. Unfortunately, it was right before a pandemic. So you may ask, what does this law do? Well, what we allow it to happen by the law that I championed and passed is we allow employers to offer student loan repayment as a tax-free benefit up to $5,250 a year. It's tax-free for both the employer and the employee. This is the same system that's in place right now and had been in place for years for tuition reimbursement. And this is why we thought it was good to address the student loan debt at the same time as we want to continue to incentivize tuition reimbursement. I first introduced this bill in September of 2014. It was subsequently reintroduced each Congress. It passed both chambers of Congress in March of 2020, and it was included in the CARES Act. We had secured 268 co-sponsors in the House and 64 co-sponsors in the Senate. This made the bill effective for 2020, but only for 1 year. So in the midst of a pandemic, we had to fight for an extension that was passed in December of 2020. And we have an extension to allow this program to continue for the next 5 years. In the past, nothing has stopped employers from offering this as a benefit, but there's been no tax incentive for either the employer or the employee. Prior to passage, it's estimated only 13% of employers provided some kind of student loan debt some kind of student loan debt benefit to employees. Student loan repayment has been used for many years by the federal government and specifically the U.S. House of Representatives. For entry level employees, though, affording the full benefit could prove difficult because it was taxable and it ultimately lowered their take home pay because they had to take out more to pay the tax bill. And that was always very frustrating to me. I was a congressional staffer for 16 years, and I saw that many of our lowest paid employees could not take the full benefit because they couldn't afford the tax bill that Uncle Sam was sending them at the end of the year. And when I got to Congress, I said I was going to fix it, and we got it done. Student loan repayment, as I mentioned earlier, it's now like tuition assistance. Tuition assistance is a tax-free benefit and is historically much more widely offered by employers. An employee can go to school while working, and the employer has been able to help pay for the employee's tuition up to $5,250 per year, tax-free, a benefit to both the employee and the employer. The Employer Participation and Repayment Act has essentially extended this tax treatment to student loans also. Why would employees want this benefit? Well, the average student graduates with over $32,000 in student loan debt. For the average graduate student, that's about 65 grand. Approximately 44.7 million Americans share the total student debt portfolio of $1.5 trillion. The need is clearly there. We've learned that paying off student loans is more important to new graduates than saving for retirement. This makes the benefit as attractive as a 401k for young talent. Why would employers want this benefit? Well, according to Johnny Taylor, who is actually the president and chief executive officer for the Society of Human Resource Management, he said, in today's competitive job market, leading edge benefits are the most powerful tool employers can wield to attract and retrain talented workers. At SHRM, we advocate for efforts that create better workplaces and a better world. We strongly support the Employer Participation and Repayment Act. Expanding employer education assistance helps address the skills gap, which is holding back both workers and employers. When employers are able to help workers pay off student debt, more people will have confidence to pursue higher education and be better prepared to fill high-skilled jobs. I couldn't agree with Johnny more. We need more employers to offer this as a benefit to get the best and the brightest, because our students are clamoring to get their student loans paid down. Now, as an employer, you may ask, how do I implement this benefit? Implementing a program like this at your own business, it's really quite easy. A couple of ways you can go about to do it. You can pay direct to the loan provider for your employee. So what you would need to do is collect information on the employee's loans and just pay those loans directly. This is how the federal government handles their repayment program, and the one I'm familiar with in the House of Representatives. Or you can have an alternative method that is simply adding this as a benefit to employees via their paycheck and verifying those funds are being used to pay student loan debt. Refer to IRS publication 15-B, Fringe Benefit Exclusion Rules, Educational Assistance, and specifically pages 10 and 11. Now, again, to get the incentive and not have to be taxed on that taxed on that benefit, you're going to have to verify that those dollars are being used to pay down the employee's student debt. I think that's why the House of Representatives, in particular, just pays the loan provider directly. And frankly, it makes it pretty easy to your employees too, because it's a win-win. You, as an employee, if you provide your loan information to your employer and they pay it down, and you can go in and check to see those payments are being made on your behalf, that gives you more flexibility to save for a future in your hometown or where you want to make your hometown. And employers, you've seen not a lot of employees right out of college are willing to invest in that 401k and save for retirement, which is essential to do immediately when you start working at a company. And this allows you to talk about those benefits that you're offering already to every employee. Again, it's a win-win for both you and your employees. And having this as a benefit, it's going to put your business ahead of similar businesses in your industry who offer no form of student loan repayment, especially especially if your goal is to hire some of the best and the brightest younger recent grads. I urge every one of you on this call to start looking into how your companies can begin utilizing this common sense, bipartisan idea that's been in the works for many years, but finally has come to fruition and been signed into law. I appreciate the opportunity, Charlie, to give you a brief overview of the Employer Participation and Repayment Act. I encourage every single one of your members to please make sure that you offer this benefit to any of your employees, not just recent grads, because frankly, you might be surprised how many of your current employees still have student debt that you may not even know about. So with that, Charlie, I'll turn it back over to you and see what we can do to get some questions answered.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Congressman. Really appreciate the update and the information that you provided for us today. Just a couple quick questions or couple thoughts, I guess, if you will. Right now, we all know that we're clamoring for workforce, right? I mean, it's the war on talent and what we can be to be competitive in finding that workforce. And so I guess my question or my thought is first off, from an employer perspective, in your constituency, have you had conversation with employers that have enacted this kind of a benefit, and what kind of feedback have they provided you and how it's gone?
Well, first off, they don't know about it. And remember, we were finally successful to get this law passed, and then a pandemic hits. So not a lot of employers have been concerned about offering new benefits to attract more into the workforce because we had such a high rate of unemployment. Imagine being at Illinois State University or Illinois Wesleyan, and you were set to graduate in the spring of 2020. When we had historic economic growth, we had historic low unemployment. Your opportunities were going to be limited only by your imagination and the salary level that you could have been offered. And then a pandemic hits. Well, because of that, those individuals that were graduating in 2020 came out at one of the worst economies that we could have had, and all in the midst of one semester. So we're educating employees and graduates on what's available so that they can ask employers. Employers just do not know that this benefit is there for them and their employers, and which is why we're talking to you. That's the biggest concern. And then it's how to implement it. And there are, you can talk to different companies that specialize in being able to make student loan repayments for your employees, just like you do payroll and benefits programs for your 401k. You don't have to do this yourself. This can be done through companies that are incentivized to set this up, just like those are to be your 401k and other benefits providers within your HR offerings at your company.
Excellent. You're right. And I'm glad you took time to join us this morning, because this is very important for our employers to know as they're looking at how they can be competitive, right? When they're looking for their talent and bringing new talent on. So just to recap, I'll reach back out to your staff and get some additional information that we can share. I know we have the PowerPoint deck, but also you mentioned 15B as far as the fringe benefits in certain pages. Can you refresh us or remind us one more time of where to go to look for that information about the implementation of this into their workforce?
Absolutely. Now remember, we want you, I don't have my PowerPoint anymore. I don't have the exact provisions, but the IRS has a worksheet and we can get that to you so you can post it up. And we even have the specific pages that the employers can turn to make sure that they're going to be able to provide this benefit according to the law. And remember, you have two options. And that's why I would encourage you to reach out to some companies that are working in this sphere already. Remember, 13% of companies had already been offering this benefit. The problem was it was taxable income to your employee. So it was difficult to explain to the employee on the front end the benefit of you getting that benefit paid down when that employee had to pay taxes on the back end. Now it's completely just like tuition reimbursement. So you can set up the program to pay down the debt for them. You would just need to get the information on the loans that your employee has, and then you would simply take over paying those loans, or the company you contract with would take over paying those loans on behalf of the employee. Or, which can be more difficult, I would think, you would give the employee a benefit, and then you would have to verify that those dollars were going to pay down that student debt. And those 2 pages in the IRS manual will tell you exactly how to verify that you're following the law and giving your employees and frankly, as employers, you're utilizing that benefit to your advantage too.
That was my very next question, was about to ensure that they're verifying appropriately. But as you commented, the IRS has some specific language on that. So we'll reach out to your team and obtain a copy of that, so that way we can share it with those who are on the call, or also post it on our Chamber Chat Facebook page, where we're broadcasting live to as well. So really appreciate that. A couple questions have come in that I do want to ask you. One came in and said, does this also apply for nonprofit organizations?
Yeah, this provides, this is something that you're eligible to do as any company. As a not-for-profit, I would encourage you, as part of your benefits packages that you're offering new grads or even current employees, take advantage of this, because many times we have many who are willing to go work in the nonprofit sector. But as you may know, traditionally the nonprofit sector may not pay as well as the for-profit sector. This could be a tool you could use to attract the best and the brightest to our nonprofit sector, which I would encourage. This is a win-win for you and your employees. And I think every company, please take advantage of it. Remember, there's no bigger not-for-profit than the federal government. And they've been using this for decades. I know it because I implemented the program for many employees that worked for Congressman John Shimkus from the year 2000 and some odd, maybe 04 when this came about. And when we then began, actually it was even before that, it was probably in the 90s. And I saw many folks pay off their entire student debt, and they were incentivized to stay working for the House of Representatives because that benefit was so good for them. And now it's tax-free up to $5,250. There's no reason the private sector shouldn't follow what's already been working for many employees who have worked for me and many other members of Congress. And frankly, Charlie, that's another reason why I wanted this passed, because a benefit like this shouldn't just be incentivized to government. We get it out into the private sector too. If it's working so well for the federal government like it was, why not allow all of you to have the same incentive to do it too?
Excellent. Thank you. Well, while we've been talking, some of the Chamber team behind the scenes has been posting all the information into the Facebook stream that's going on right now on the Chamber Chat page. So all the links to the documents that you've been talking about are already posted up on our Facebook page. So those of you who are watching, you can use those links right away. And Congressman, you talked specifically about both the opportunity to pay direct and the opportunity to pay with verification. The information was on the slide deck that we'll also post as well, with more information about how to implement that process. I think those are the questions that we have today. There's one last question that came in that I'll ask, and then we'll let you go because we know you're very busy. And that is that this has been talked about for a long time, according to this individual. The question is, do you know of any specific companies that are helping to administer this benefit at this point in time?
I do not have a specific list. I do know that there are some companies that are implementing this program already. I want to say some large companies like Boeing have been utilizing this, and some of our larger companies had talked about wanting to implement this program, but some were waiting for this law to pass because they realized that it would be a win-win for the employer and the employee to not have to pay taxes on up to $5,250 per year. There are plenty of companies that have been utilizing this program. I just don't want to name one that doesn't. But I would encourage you to reach out to a company called Peanut Butter. Peanut Butter was started at a business incubator up in Chicago, and I do know that this is their specialty in trying to go to companies and setting up student loan repayment programs similar to what your local companies may do to set up 401k programs or other accidental death benefits, life benefits, health benefits within your HR portfolio at your specific company now.
Excellent. Well, I think that answers the question that we had on this particular topic today. I'll wrap up this topic and just say that this will, of course, continue to live on our Facebook page, as well as the Chamber's Video Resource Library, which has been very generously sponsored by a variety of businesses. And so we appreciate their support. So this information will continue to live, and we'll be glad to share it as we continue to move forward, because we want business to know about this great opportunity. And thank you, Congressman, for all the hard work that you put in to make this a reality for our businesses, to help not only the students with the repayment, but also to help businesses perhaps look at another competitive advantage as they gear up on their workforce. So as we wrap up today, Congressman, I'll open the floor. Anything else you'd like to share with our message today?
No, Charlie, I just want to say thanks to the McLean County Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for having me on this Zoom call and the Facebook Live. Take advantage of this issue. This is a big deal, and this is something that is going to transcend our debate in Washington over student loan debt. Don't believe the promises that are being made that somehow student loan debt is going to be forgiven. That's going to cost families, and it's not incentivizing those who should be paying down their student loan debt already. So this is a win-win, a voluntary private sector approach. Take advantage of it as members of the private sector. Government already has, and we can put a dent in this $1.5 trillion bubble that could burst and really have adverse impacts on our economies in the future.
Congressman Rodney Davis, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Charlie. Take care, everyone.